If this video gets 300 likes, I will treat myself to some Chick-fil-A tomorrow. Let's be real here, if it doesn't get 300 likes, I'm gonna do it regardless. What's up, my Nimrods? It's Gage coming back at you guys with another video today. I am 1 billion gajillion% thankful that you guys would spend a couple minutes here with me today to talk about a children's card game. Yeah, you know the Expanse of the Universe? It's actually infinite. That is the equivalent of how much I appreciate you guys. All right, picture you're in the last round of a YCS. You are sitting across your opponent 8-2. You are ready to bubble this event to make it into the top 32 to hopefully seal the deal and get some prize support for actually playing this game. You look your opponent in the eye before the match starts and you say, hey, good luck, even though you secretly hope he bricks the fuck out of his deck. Your opponent wins the die roll, so he decides he's going to kick off the duel in the driver's seat. You shake hands and the duel begins after drawing your opening hand. Your opponent looks at his hand, takes a deep breath, and then proceeds to activate tuning from his hand. Your opponent is playing Synchron's, and you really can't like to see where this is coming from. Disclaimer, I do understand he's playing Synchron's in late 2017. Let's take this back a couple years. Assume you're back when Synchron's was actually relevant. Just for the sake of this, please. You don't have any responses in your hand as you have no hand traps. Pretty unideal, but hey, sometimes it happens. Opponent proceeds to go off, summoning multiple synchro monsters and climbing his way into his final King Kahuna boss monster, Shooting Quasar Dragon. Shooting Quasar Dragon is an absolute fucking powerhouse. This guy is totally insane and he's there to wreck your shit. With a beefy 12-star, 4,000 stat line and the ability to negate absolutely everything, and also the tacked on ability to float into Shooting Star Dragon when it dies, this thing is an absolute beast. After your opponent makes a Shooting Quasar Dragon, he looks at you with a smirk on his face and says, hey, go ahead, as if to taunt you and say, hey, you know, my donger is way larger than yours. You draw your 6th card from your deck and realize very quickly that it's your last card of that round. You breathe a sigh and then you say, hey, let's just take it to game 2. This is definitely not relevant in today's standards, but back in the day when Synchron's was an actual deck, this is something that happened more often than you'd like to think. Shooting Quasar Dragon was a super nutty card back in the day. Back when it was just a jump promo, this card was actually around $100. I actually have a very, very old video of me talking about this. Don't watch it because it's super embarrassing, but it's there. It's really hard to believe that Shooting Quasar Dragon was ever such a really good card. Despite the fact that it is, of course, extremely powerful, it seems like at the most part, it's just a gimmick. Now let's take that same scenario that your opponent's playing Synchron's, or maybe he's playing a Synchro deck. Let's just say he's able to summon Shooting Quasar Dragon in Link format. Let's put it at that. Your opponent drops his Shooting Quasar Dragon after going through his entire turn. You draw your 6th card. You look at him, smile, and release a little chuckle as you proceed to Gamma Seal his ass. How the hell did this person make it to the top tables in a YCS in 2017 playing Synchron's? You have no idea. But yeah, it's easily dealt with. But more specifically, I just want to talk about Kaijus and how them as an engine is not played to its most potential, I like to think. Kaijus, when they were first announced, were an absolute curveball to the Yu-Gi-Oh! Trading card game, as it really brought back a mechanic that was once deemed to be really bad. That mechanic, of course, is tributing your opponent's monsters to deal with them. There were other cards released at the time, cards like Lava Golem, cards like Volcanic Queen, and even recently at that time, Santa Claus was a card release. But all of these cards had one thing in common. Oh, they suck. Lava Golem was actually one of the better ways to deal with 2 monsters on your opponent's side of the boards, as the drawback wasn't that bad. You gave your opponent a really big dude, of course, but you also lost your normal summon, but in that same sentence, you did deal with 2 monsters. Volcanic Queen was the dumbed down version of way to deal with things, and it was astoundingly bad for the fact where you contribute 1 monster, but you would still end up losing your normal summon. Oh, that meant a lot. Santa Claus was kind of a step in the right direction, where you were able to tribute your opponent's monster and not lose your normal summon. However, your opponent would still get a draw during the end phase. And that's no bueno. And then we got Kaijus released to us. For anybody that's been watching my channel for a while, you know I am not very fond of Kaijus, just because it does tarnish the entire rest of the history of the cards and show how bad power creep is in this game. But I can't go without saying that this has been a cornerstone in Yu-Gi-Oh! Kaijus were released as an archetype, but mainly people just wanted to use them to be able to sack over big, beefy monsters. The first big baddie that really got the Kaiju treatment was Super Quantum Mega What the fuck is that card's name? Jesus Christ. Super Quantum Mech King Great Magnus. Yeah, this guy. This guy was the first person to get the Kaiju treatment at full force. Coming off of Calvin Tahan's stellar performance with Super Quantals back in the day, a deck that was just written off to be gimmicky and trash. Coming off of this, it was that one of the ARGZs did extremely well, winning the event with Super Quantals. A lot of people started to pick up the deck to give it a shot. However, what players quickly meant to realize is that this card was a one-trick pony. Being able to drop the Super Quantum Mech King Great Magnus is great, as if you don't have the response to deal with it, but as more people chose to play the deck, the easier it became to deal with. And that's all because all you had to do was side deck one simple card to deal with it, and that is Gamma Seal, the Sea Turtle Kaiju. Gamma Seal is by far the best Kaiju amongst the player base just because of its stat line of 2200, 3000, and since you had to summon the Kaiju in attack position on your opponent's side of the field, this was the easiest fella to run over. But did you know that Kaiju Gamma Seal, this Gamma Seal, is actually better than that? See, Gamma Seal has a fantastic effect, which is essentially a solemn judgment when you remove 2 Kaiju counters anywhere on the field. That just sounds insane. But nobody chooses to use that effect because nobody chooses to use Kaijus as the engine that I think they should be used as. Kaijus are the best toolbox to deal with big boss monsters in Yu-Gi-Oh! Unquestioned. But I think they have a lot of hidden potential in the actual archetype they can be played in. When you would play Kaijus and everything, the only reason you would really play different Kaijus would be to have different targets to activate with Interrupted Kaiju Slumber, which is one of the best cards also for the archetype as well. Being able to wipe the board and then give yourself a big beefy dude to beat over the smaller dude and then banish it later to add one of the ways to deal with the boss monsters, oh, it was fantastic. Cards have won now for just that very good reason. This is really the extent that Kaijus would be played at, is you would play Slumber plus maybe 4 different Kaijus or something like that. Gamma Seal, Kamungus, and then Jizakuru, as well as the Thunder King Kaiju were the choices to go for. But if you were potentially to up that count of Kaijus and add 1 card, what if I told you you could be having one of the most powerful engines at your fingertips? All you would have to do is add 1 card, and that card is Kyoto Waterfront. I personally think this is one of the best field cards ever, and I'm surprised nobody really touches this to play Kaijus as the engine they should be played as. Kyoto Waterfront reads, each time a card is sent from the field to the graveyard, place 1 Kaiju counter on this card for each card sent, max 5. Once per turn, while 3 or more Kaiju counters are on this card, you can add 1 Kaiju monster from your deck to your hand. This card would be destroyed, you can remove 1 Kaiju counter from it instead. This card has built-in protection, and you can consistently search out Kaiju monsters from your deck and add them to your hand to be able to synergize with the fact that you now have Kaiju counters on this field spell. I already said Gamma Seal is literally a walking solemn judgment, which is crazy on its own, but Kamungus is also a really good card too, being the fact that it can negate your opponent's effects and freeze them from attacking when a monster is normal or special summon. This is also an extremely powerful effect, all made possible with the fact that we're playing a card that actually gives us Kaiju counters. So why isn't this engine getting more play is what you're asking, Gage. You're really hyping it up. These things seem pretty cool. Why isn't anybody playing Kyoto Waterfront when they play them alongside Kaijus? And I think it's pretty easy to explain. It's either space or they're playing another field spell. To commit Kyoto Waterfront to a deck, you have to play 3 Waterfront and 3 Terraforming if you want to get the max potential out of all your Kaijus. You're able to search them out with Kyoto Waterfront so you can dim down the number you're playing of actual Kaijus, but you want to get to Waterfront because that unlocks them to their fullest potential. That is 6 cards to put in the deck, and I know that might not seem a lot, but for any really competitive deck, it happens to be a lot. But also the other reason is just every deck has a field spell now, so you're going to be forcibly playing a different field spell. True Dracos would much rather play a Dragonic Diagram and sit on that, because if it does happen to stick around for another turn, they can activate it yet again. Kyoto Waterfront would just replace that, and that kind of sucks. Zodiac was actually able to play this card, and I actually did see some builds try it out a little bit. But I think this card got the most play in the Invoked deck. Because the Invoked field spell, you would just simply activate it to add an Alistair to your hand, and then it did pretty much nothing. So people would replace it with a Kyoto Waterfront, and this card was insane in that deck. But so far, that's really the only deck that's used Kaijus to their fullest potential with Kyoto Waterfront in all the works. I think it's really a shame that we didn't get to see this archetype blossom more until we got Interrupted Kaiju Slumber put to 1. If Interrupted Kaiju Slumber was at a number more than 1, I think this engine would be a lot more worthwhile playing. Waterfront plus Slumber was insane, being able to dump the board, put 5 counters pretty much all the time on Waterfront right away, and then give yourself a big dude on the field. You could even give yourself a Gamma Seal and then just Solemn Judgment every card your opponent tried to activate during their turn. It was crazy, but unfortunately that's really no longer the case, and I think that sucks. But I want to hear what you guys think of Kaiju as an engine. Why do you think this engine didn't see much play and people just opted to play 3 Gamma Seal as their choice of meaning to deal with boss monsters? I'm really curious to hear what you guys think. I think it's an engine with hugely untapped potential, and it's something that should be looked at again, whether it be now or in the future. I think it's something to be scared of.
That's all, folks.
If you guys liked the video, be sure to like the video, thumbs up the video, how much press say you enjoy the video. If you did like the video, please do consider subscribing to my channel. I'm uploading regularly now, and I'm quite proud about it. Thank you very much. That being said, I do thank you guys for watching the video. Be sure to like, comment, and subscribe, and I'll catch you guys next time. Nim Nim, signing out.